So what happens is, with the process I've outlined, by editing your images down to, say, your 3-star images, putting them into a collection where you can move them around and then start to group them into mini series of images that make sense, you'll actually discover individual bodies of work within that larger group. And you'll discover what it is that you were intuitively exploring with your camera, e.g. pathways. So there'll be stories, there'll be themes, metaphors, etc. that'll come out of your images. This is where photography becomes closer to fine art, and a lot of people have trouble with the term fine art, but it really just means, personal photography, if you like, as opposed to commercial work being told what to do and how to do it. So you're just out there working intuitively, and you spend time with your images, and the images will actually tell you what they're about, or the images will tell you what you're about, what has been expressed through your photography. They'll allow you to show the world your images and the way you see the world. So our pathways in our journey continues. Now this is coming into an area where there was quite heavy mist, and I was walking through light snow for a little while, and I remember moving around the side of the mountain here. It was a little bit icy on the pathway. Now, I didn't have fantastic shoes for this. I had basically just outdoor shoes, like sneakers, but with good tread. Fortunately, I brought a pair with me that had a Gore-Tex lining, so my feet were warm and dry all the time. I didn't have proper studs for the shoes, which I would definitely acquire for the next trip. I was either being given or was buying for about $1 each time these little slip-on studs, sort of made in China, that slipped over my shoe. Now be careful if you do this, because I don't have particularly large feet, and I was getting the largest possible slip-on studs available. So you'd be much better off to get proper shoes if you're going to Huangshan in winter. And just the shoes with the studs, and they would be perfect. Because there's quite a bit of walking involved, the slip-ons that I had actually fell apart on a couple of occasions, but I was careful to buy several sets, and it got me through the trip. And you can see the pathway make its way along the mountaintop, and you get some idea of the geography there. This is an incredible location which is frequented by millions of tourists throughout the year. Spring and autumn, I believe, are the most popular times because of the colourings of the trees and but you just get so many tourists, so many local tourists, that it'd just be very frustrating to be a photographer. There'd be so many people on the pathways, but also at those postcard spots, the really classic scenic locations. There's not much room to move at the best of time, and if you've got 100 or 200 folks there trying to make pictures, and there you are with your tripod, you're in trouble. So being out and about early or late in the day is an advantage, because there's less likely to be loads of tourists there, but it does happen. So the other option to you is to go off-season, and winter is a spectacular time. I doubt that there were more than several hundred people on the whole mountain while I was there. And as I say, I was often walking for several hours at a time without seeing anyone. So as well as being very, very beautiful in winter, I think you've got lots of opportunities because you are going to be less hassled by large groups of tourists. Now, I think it's also worth saying, in case anyone's getting a bit scared looking at these images that why would I be photographing pathways? Well, at the time, I was photographing what was visually interesting. So I'm going to be photographing probably the more extreme climbs, and the pathways that are particularly iced over. Most of them were somewhat easier than what you see in these shots. Now this is one of the off-road adventures I went on, if you like, off the main path. And it led to just a spectacular image, which I'll show you down the track. But, tightly packed snow, no problem walking on with reasonable shoes. Various places to take a rest along the way, and if the weather's bad, seek some shelter. So one other thing I'd like to mention is the workmen, and the workmen to me were incredibly impressive. Out there all times of year, keeping the pathways clean. I certainly appreciated their hard work. It can't be easy out in the weather all the time. And the guys that really impressed me were those that were hauling the supplies. So you're staying in a hotel, the soaps, the linen, the towels, the food, the drinking water, gee whiz, even the materials used in construction were all hauled up the mountain. Now, I'm not sure at what stage the cable car was built, but nevertheless, from the cable car station, there's a couple of them on the mountain, to the hotels or stores along the track, cafes and the like, the stuff still has to be lugged by hand. And these guys do an amazing job. It's not easy. And they're out there in all weather, deadlines to meet. Quite incredible, really. So remembering my point that out of that one series of images, a number of mini portfolios can occur. And you'll find by separating your images into different mini groups that themes or ideas will come out. Pathways, journeys, hiking, nature, etc. I always have a lot of fun with this approach. See the difference in the colour of the light here? There's a white cloud cover giving the snow in the foreground a lovely white crisp appearance, and then into the background the darker clouds above projecting a bluish light into the background. And again, this is not typical of the pathway, it's just a dramatic spot to make a photograph. So I'm photographing a part of the path that is quite iced over, but not typical really. Most of the main pathways are very well looked after. This is pretty much the highest spot from memory on the mountain, and it's quite a forlorn location, and it was a little windy here. It's one of the few places where I did feel the breeze. But the tourists love it, and just across from where these guys were was a lovely little cafe. Now, I'm not talking about a French cafe, of course. I'm talking about a place where you could sit, look at a spectacular view when the mist parted, and get some basic but hot food and drinks, and much appreciated. Gorgeous little Chinese bridge. And this is the sort of thing, these little rest houses, there are several of them along the route, and an ideal place to stop maybe halfway along your day's journey. Now, from memory, you could probably walk from one hotel to the next in, well, wouldn't be any more than 3 hours. So you see, if you're travelling, if you get up early in the morning and do a sunrise, you can come back to your hotel, have a good breakfast, shower, get yourself cleaned up, head off again, and you would actually be at the next hotel by lunchtime without any problem at all. I mean, often by mid-morning. But if you want to take your time with your photography, certainly get to the next place by lunchtime, check in, have a meal, maybe have a rest, go out again in the afternoon for some photography in that area. Either stay out for sunset, which of course occurs quite early in winter, or back to the hotel for rest prior to going out again. So there's actually plenty of time. The walking, it's certainly a part of the routine, but it's not the whole day. You really wouldn't spend more than about 3 hours, I would say, on average, walking on a daily basis, unless you were going backwards and forwards, re-photographing an area. You can see that lovely blue light again in the background. So again, that's the landscape is being coloured with a wash of blue light because of darker clouds that are overhead. White clouds produce a white light, but darker clouds, what we would see as dark grey clouds, are actually producing a bluish light. Interesting metaphor with that one, the pathway leading up to the light. So I'm not sure how you're responding to these images, folks, and I'd really appreciate feedback on them. It may seem a bit forlorn, this location. It may remind you of an exterior view of, gee whiz, some of the scenes from the Fellowship of the Ring. The mines of Moria were, of course, inside the mountain, but they passed over the mountaintops to get there. It may remind you of that. Of course, I could have set this up with some fairly dramatic music, which would have really emphasised that. But to me, I was just supremely happy to be out there wandering around on these paths, making photographs in an unhindered manner. I thought it was just tremendous. Spectacular, really. So I'll be heading back to Huangshan as part of a larger tour, a photography tour that I'll be running in January of 2012. And I'll be posting videos and images on YouTube and on my blog over the next week or so to give a bit of an indication as to what you would see and photograph at that time of year. So these shots are made in January 2011, and I'd be returning with the group in January 2012. Interestingly, on the very last day I was there, on my last little climb back to the cable car, the sun came out and we had a blue sky. Not for long, but it's fascinating because it really does transform the landscape. And I would say that I wasn't overly lucky with the weather. I mean, I was never snowed in. There was never really heavy snow showers. I certainly walked through falling snow, but probably not for more than about an hour over the full 3 days that I was walking around. There are a couple of places that are a little bit breezy, but I was never in high wind. I was surrounded by this white blanket of cloud, which, as I say, robbed me of some spectacular landscapes, but also created a really sublime environment. And I was able to photograph lots of close-up shots, for instance, that you just probably wouldn't pay attention to, those sort of things, under beautiful blue sky conditions. So it's always difficult to know what weather you'll get. I would say I had average weather conditions for that time of year, and was able to make the most of it. We could be lucky, and so my intention is to actually plan to have an extra day up there compared to what I had this year. And with that extra time, there's more chance of changes in weather, better or worse, but that could actually, either way, make for more interesting images.